Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy, Atypical Security Guard, heading into work. It's Friday. Beautiful day here in Portland, Oregon. Let's hope that we have a great day today. It's my daughter's birthday. A little baby. She's growing up. All right, today I read a post on a message board last night where security guards were talking about how much it would take, pay-wise, for them to stop an active shooter, right? So let me say this again. They were talking about the amount of money they would have to make working as a security guard to engage an active shooter, which would mean to go after an active shooter if they were on their site. Most of the people said that it would have to be over most of the people said it would have to be over $25. I think the going rate, the going median rate was like right around 37, 38 bucks. It was basically the salary of a entry-level law enforcement officer, right? And that was kind of the running theme, that most people were like, yeah, you know, if I was making what an average police officer, law enforcement officer was making, and I was in a situation where an active shooter were to happen, I would go ahead and engage the threat. I thought that was so interesting because I think that it's the male ego, it's the male nature to always assume, whenever we're having conversations about what you would do in a fight, what you would do in a home invasion, what you might do in any situation, right? We tend to always think about us being successful and being on the winning side. And that's not always the case, right? It's not always the case in situations where we do have to defend ourselves. A lot of times people lose in fights, right? It's not always the case when you think about how you would respond to something that might be a little bit different. You know, we often joke around about like wives cheating or us cheating or situations that might happen in your relationship. I know a lot of guys, I work with a ton of dudes. A lot of guys don't react and respond to things in real life the way they say that they would when you're having these conversations. So anyway, that was the discussion. What would it cost for you to engage an active shooter? Well, in private security, you got to remember that a lot of the situations in terms of what we do, what we respond to, how we address certain situations, it's contractual, right? And a lot of these situations and conversations, you might not be contractually obligated to engage an active shooter. Now, that brought up a different point because a lot of people were saying that from their company standpoint, they've already been told that your first responsibility is to protect yourself. Aside from protecting yourself, we do not want you to engage that active shooter because, number one, you know, the companies don't want the liability of you engaging that situation, getting hurt yourself, and then they're paying out to your family. They definitely don't want you to hurt an innocent bystander. And there's also the very real possibility that when the police show up, you might be seen as the person who is the perpetrator. I don't think that most people really allow that to run through their mind. The fact that you're in a uniform, the fact that you're working a location, that you're certified, people go crazy all the time. I had a story where a security guard was at work and his detail had two guards, him and another guy. They got into an argument and the other guard shot him. I was going to be able to interview this guy, but the legal situation got all wrangled up. He didn't want to mess up his money. I understand that, no disrespect. But that happened. That was two security guards. That was guard on guard violence, right? So a lot of times people don't think about the fact that if the call goes out that there's an issue, that there's a shooter, there's a shooting in progress, if you're a security guard and you're running around the store, you're running around the shopping mall, you're in that situation trying to take out that threat, it's not unlikely that you might be seen as the perpetrator. There's a very sad situation and story. I want to say maybe out of Milwaukee or some other area in Wisconsin a couple years ago. There was a shooter inside of a shopping mall, and there was an off-duty, I don't want to say off-duty, but not on the clock, infantryman, soldier. This guy's with his family. He sends his family to a safe area. He engages the threat, stops the threat. Cops come around the corner, see him, and neutralize him. Okay, so that does happen, and that's kind of what I wanted to talk to you guys about today. Everybody was talking about the price of what they would put themselves and what it would cost for them to actually get involved in something like that. But nobody was talking about the price, because there is a price, right? There's a price associated with how much it would cost for you to do that, but there's also a price associated with what it's going to cost from you. You have to remember that even in the best set of circumstances, there's going to be a cost associated with you getting involved. I'm not talking about legally, I'm not talking about liability, I'm talking about the cost of what has happened. We are so good at painting ourselves as like being tough enough, strong enough, mentally stable enough to handle these situations. My supervisor and mentor has been involved, I think, don't quote me, I know one officer involved shooting, I think maybe two. And I know that from talking to him over the last 4 years and being around him, there's a weight that he carries with that situation. I worked on a podcast where officers who were involved in shootings on both sides of the barrel, meaning that they were involved in actually being the one who took the shot, or they're involved in being the one who received the shot. I produced this podcast and I was able to sit and listen to, I think it was 5 or 6 episodes of people that had experienced, just ultimate trauma. And these are guys who are hardened veterans of law enforcement. These are guys with like 10, 15, some of the guys 30 years in law enforcement. And when they're talking about the situation, when they're talking about the story, when they're going over the circumstances or what happened or the backlash, these are strong men. And a lot of them are broken, right? It's not like they sit and they recount having to take someone's life or almost losing theirs as some sort of badge of honor or some sort of point of pride. Almost every single story that I've heard, that I've been a part of, where I've been able to sit there and listen, it's a lot of weight that comes along with it. So much so that a lot of times, like the people that are telling the stories, someone ends up staying with them for a few hours afterwards to make sure that they're okay. And these are people that see the absolute worst of society. These are people that are trained. These are people that have resources and opportunities to reach out to people. None of that is available in private security. I've told you guys about the situation that I responded to. I believe it was October 16th. I want to say it was 2022, where I got the call that there was a homicide in our parking lot. I was not involved in that shooting. I didn't take a shot. Thank God I did not receive a shot, but I responded. I was the first person on the scene. What I saw, what I watched in terms of how the situation progressed when they removed the body from the vehicle, that entire situation, I carry that. And my involvement in that was so minuscule. Respond to the shooting, get to the scene, thinking potentially that the person was still there, clearing the area, contacting law enforcement, waiting for their arrival, doing the report, an hour's worth of work. And I think about that situation every single day, and that was a very limited level of involvement. I don't think that people think about the ultimate cost of being involved in something, of getting involved in something. And we haven't even gotten into the very real issue that the vast majority of private security guards, they're not trained. They're not trained, they're not equipped, they're not stable enough to address something at the level of an active shooter. Does that mean that in any situation a guard couldn't act in good faith and be successful in helping to quell that situation? Of course they could. Does that mean that there's not security guards out there that are highly capable enough to be able to take that shot? Of course. But the reality is that most people aren't. And most people aren't thinking about the liability, whether that's civilly or legally, of what could happen in that situation. Most people aren't thinking about being on the receiving end of gunfire. There's this misconception that the security guard who's working at a location, when something pops off, no pun intended, that they're going to be the person that's going to respond, and that in some weird twist of fate, they're the only ones who are going to be sending rounds down range. And more than likely, that's not the case. And I don't think that a lot of people are thinking about what the ultimate cost is of receiving that gunfire, of potentially not being successful. What if you lose your life? So if the price is $38 an hour, and you said that, look, if I make $38 an hour, including overtime, I can make over $100,000 a year. For $100,000 a year, I will engage that threat. Is that enough for your family? If you're not here, is that enough? Is it worth missing your daughter's graduation, going to college? Is it worth not walking her down the aisle at her marriage? Is it worth not seeing your grandkids? Is it worth not having time with the woman that you love? Because the price in your mind might be $100,000 a year. But making that decision could cost you everything. Now, when I say this, I am not telling anybody out there, if your job is to work armed security, clearly you have a responsibility. And if you have made it up in your mind that if that bell were to ring today, that you're going to answer it. You're going to answer it, and at the end of the day, whatever happens, happens. I can respect that. I'm not going to tell you that you're in the wrong. I only bring these things up because I want you to ask yourself these questions. I want you to have these conversations with yourself. Because a lot of times, just from the outside looking in, and I know a lot of people that are in this industry are a lot younger than I am. I've got probably twice the age and twice the life experience of most people that follow this channel. I just want you guys to ask yourself, is it worth it? And when I ask you if is it worth it, is it truly worth it? Because the price is not just the $38 an hour. Okay? It could cost you a lot more than that. Share your thoughts below. Let me know what you guys think. Is there a number that you would say, hey man, if I'm getting paid this, I don't care. If it's $50 an hour, $55 an hour, I don't give a shit. Give me the gun, I'll do whatever it takes. Let me know. If you agree that what I'm saying is that we have to not only think about the price, but also factor in the cost, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that too. Do you think about these kind of things, or is it just like, when I'm having these conversations with you guys, do I sound like the old dude, the old wise philosopher? Am I crazy? Or are you somewhere in the middle? Let me know in the comment section. I hope if you guys are working today that you have a great day. The last couple of days at work for me have been a little stressful. I don't know, like, the weather's really good, but people are turning up. We've had more angry people, more aggressive people, more people like wanting to fight in the last 2 days. And it's weird because it's such a nice day. It's also Fleet Week here in Portland. That means like the Navy ships are in harbor. So we got like a bunch of Navy guys and Marines and stuff running around. I don't know why I told you guys that. It's just an interesting thing here. Like, see a bunch of Navy guys and Marines walking around. I guess the ladies will be happy downtown. So anyway, shout out to my Navy brethren. All right, you guys have a great day. You be safe today. If you're working, please watch your back, watch your six, and as always, be great. All right, take care.